most important things were taught from 3 onwards anyway, so it should be good.
Yeah. So we'll do the UI part in Java now, okay? Or you can say GUI in Java.
Yeah.
Graphical user interface, correct? So this graphical user interface has two versions. One is AWT, that is the basic version, and then the Pro version, like how Pro and iPhone 13 Pro Max, correct?
Yeah.
So the Swing is the Pro version of it. Okay, so we'll start with AWT, and the coding is 95% same with additional features. So we have a lot of add-on features in Swing, which we don't have, like those things which we have to build by the programmer are all ready-made, provided in Swing. They are all built in. So some features which we have to explicitly code in AWT, those features are built in, available in Swing, and with the enriched UI interface, like the graphics are much better in Swing. So we'll start with AWT, and then gradually we'll migrate to Swing also. Okay.
Alright.
So let me search for some literature which I have, which I can show you, and which will be helpful for us. So if we are to make a AWT program, I have prepared a series of steps. If we follow them step by step, one after the other, we should have no problem in making a AWT application or AWT user interface. So the first thing first, so whenever we are playing with inbuilt classes, try to import those classes. So which packages do we have to import first? What does this star mean?
Imports
All the classes and interfaces, all the classes and interfaces in this package called java.awt, and in that we also have a sub package by the name event. So dot star over here means,
So it's going to take all the packages and
yeah, import all the classes and interfaces in the package java.event.star. Okay, makes sense.
yeah.
Now,
So I have a question. So do we have to import the files or is just the top one over?
we just have to import it. When we install Java, these files are already there. So just
But also like when we start coding a program, we have to like add both those lines at the top or it's just the top one we can do?
see, what we have to do is, we have to, so if for example I have to make a UI to add two numbers, okay, so this is the label which will prompt the user, and this is the text field in which I will enter the number, correct?
Yes.
And then similarly I'll have one more set of it. So this is more or less identical to Android UI also, how the UI is made in Android. So, and this is the button I'll have. Make sense? Now
Yeah.
how many controls am I having over here? 5 controls, right? So this is just merely a prompt to prompt the user what you expect him or her to enter. So what you say over here, enter number 1, correct?
Yeah.
And over here you will say enter number 2,
Yes.
and these two are the text boxes for that, and here we'll have a
Yeah.
submit button.
Yes.
Now we have no drag and drop facility. All this we have to program on the Notepad++ or on the Sublime Text. So we only have this fresh canvas, and to draw this, to bring this output, we have to write the code and geographically place them, the controls, where we want to. So these things which we see on the screen are the controls, are the,
No.
so this is a label. What is this? The black ones are the,
Labels.
and if you see, I am writing it with a capital L, mean what? It's a inbuilt class. It's a label is a built-in, label is a built-in class, ready-made class. And what are these red ones? This is text field. What is this called as?
Like in 2012 class.
Yeah, so this is used for single line text. Used for what?
No items.
So if you want something which will have multi-line text, like for address and such data, for that we have text area. For that, what do we have? Text area. This green color stuff is called as button. Is called as, and the programming is done on the buttons, on the click of the button, correct?
Yes.
So these are all built-in classes. What are these?
Classes.
In which package? All the design classes are in the AWT package. What are they?
AWT.
In, correct? And what are they? Can you name me few classes?
Label, button, text field, text area.
Label, text field, 3, button, 4.
Text area.
Okay, if I were to select gender, male and female, correct? So that is we normally call it radio button, but we call them as checkbox over here. What do we call them?
Checkbox.
Checkbox. Okay. And if I were to select hobbies, where a user can do multiple selections, when he can select multiple selections together, that is called checkbox group. What is that called as?
Checkbox.
So we have all these controls which we will be needing on the front end, correct?
Yeah. Also drop down menu is there a
Yeah, drop down menu is also there. Yes, that is called choice. That is called as choice. So we also have a drop down like we have over here, I guess. This is what you're talking about. This is what, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like that.
This is called as choice. What is this called as?
Choice.
So you name it, we have it. So we can use so we have lots of, so if you go to the starter guide, the AWT steps, if you open that, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So we have how many classes, you will see over there. So can you see from at line number 46 to 56? Can you see that?
Noise.
Is the screen visible?
Yeah, I can see this one.
Hmm?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have text field, text area, choice, image. If you wish to put an image on the screen, if you wish to add a scroll bar, if you want to make your dialogues, so we can make all lot of things over here.
Alright.
And this will be most simplified in Swing. Swing will give you ready-made controls for most of them. So the step 1, what was step 1?
To import my
So what does this package contain? AWT star contain
contains all of the
all of the,
like label, button,
what are these called as?
design classes.
Design classes. Okay, and when I click on the submit, the code will execute, correct?
Yes.
So for code we have event handlers. What do we have for code?
Event handler.
So because the code will execute in response to event, right?
Yeah.
Code will execute in response to
And event.
event. So we normally have a click event, right?
Yeah.
So we have a mouse move event, mouse hover event, correct?
Yes.
So mouse click, then we have key press, correct?
Yeah.
So event can be triggered by any of the input output devices, correct? So if I hit enter on the button, I want to execute some code. If I click on the button, I want to execute some code. If I just take the mouse on the button, I want the code to execute. That is called as mouse move. What is that called as?
Mouse.
Mouse move. And if I want to execute some code on dragging of the mouse, like clicking the mouse and moving it, is called as mouse drag, right? So I have lot of events. So whenever whichever event occurs, on response of that I can execute the code, correct? Are you getting the point, Krish?
Right. I get the point.
So for the events in Java we have listeners. What do we have? What do we have for events? Yes, can you see this over here?
Yeah.
So these listeners are your interfaces. What are they? Means what? They'll have a method declared, but there'll be no definition to the method, correct? Are you getting the
Yeah.
point?
It's coming together.
Yeah, so this coding will be taken care by the listeners, which are interfaces, which are what?
Sure.
And each event, each will have its set of listeners. So if I want to fire events with the keyboard, I have key listener. What I have? If I want to fire event with the mouse, I have what?
Mouse.
And there's one more called mouse motion also. There's one more called as what?
Mouse.
Listener. If I want to, like this, you told me this drop down box. So drop down box, such controls which have an array of items in it. For that we have item listener. What do we have? So such controls which give you a list of items to choose from. The drop down gives you a list of items to choose from, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that the drop down, it gives you this drop down, gives you a list of items to choose from, correct?
Yes.
So for such controls we have item listener. Which listener?
Item listeners.
And we have many more. As we go on, we'll study them. So these are listeners, means what? They just have a empty method, correct?
Yes.
And which is the most commonly used event?
But
Click, right?
yeah.
So for that we have action listener. What do we have for that?
Action listener.
Action listener. And it is an interface, means what? It will have only abstract methods.
Yes.
So the abstract method present in action listener is action performed, which is the abstract method, which is the abstract method.
Action.
Public void prefixed by.
Public void.
And which type of listener is it? Which type of listener is it?
Actions.
So we'll have that type of event as an argument to the method. We'll do this practically. I'm just showing you a glimpse of it right now.
Yeah.
Like how we had an exception handling, right?
Yeah.
The exception class would be there in the catch. Similar to that,
Yeah.
the type of listener will have the type of event as an argument. So this is the most simplest of all listeners, which is that.
Which is action.
So if we have a class which says implements action listener, so if we have a class test which says implements Action listener means what? What is the responsibility of the class test now? What is the responsibility of the class test?
It has to empty methods that are in the action.
It has to override the action perform method. It has to do what?
Or the action.
It has to give body to the action performed, right? It has to give body to action performed, correct?
Yeah.
So class test, if it says that it is implementing action listener, if it says that implements action listener, so what is the responsibility of class test, I'm asking?
Overrides
It has to override all the abstract methods in that interface, correct? But fortunately in the action listener we have only one method, which is,
action.
so who has to give body to action perform?
Test. Check.
The class which is implementing it, correct? And when will, okay, that I will go in detail later on. So is this making sense to you?
Yeah.
So all the interfaces are in the second package, are in this package.
Okay.
You get the point?
But I have a quick question. So the first one, right? When you put the star at the end, does that also include all of the class interfaces that are in the event?
No, it only imports the interfaces and classes, not the sub packages. So
Okay.
event is a sub package. So sub packages have to be imported explicitly.
So is there a way to like import everything, like including class interfaces, sub packages, or
If you are doing import, you have to go till the package in which that class is there. So
okay?
if you are importing, so you have to navigate till the class, till the package in which that class is there. You can't navigate till the sub package. So
Got it.
if action listener is in which package?
The event.
Event, right? So I will have to
Yeah.
navigate till the end of the package. If
Got
I
it.
say over here dot star will import only the classes and interfaces in the AWT package.
Nothing further than that. Got it.
Nothing further than that, because the star is only classes and interfaces, not the sub
Yeah.
packages.
Yes.
So if you are doing the design, just import this package. But if you want to code along with the design, import this package also. Am I understood?
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now the canvas on which I will do the, okay, I'll just delete this. The canvas on which I will do this designing is called as window. Is called as what? Window. This entire stuff is called as window. But this window has some minimize maximize part also, correct?
Yes.
So it has a minimize maximize, like we have over here minimize maximize close, correct?
Yeah.
So it has minimize, close, and maximize. So this part as a user I cannot use. I can just max to max give a title to it. So if I'm making a calculator, I can just give a title to it.
Yeah.
My the consumable area is this part, the green part which I'm doing. This is my consumable area, correct?
Yes.
This is called as frame. It's called as what? So the green portion is called as frame, and the black portion is called as window. Am I understood? So frame is a sub part of your window, correct?
Yeah.
So
Is there like a difference between frame and J frame, or are they just
J frame is in swing. It's in, so AWT and swing. As I told you, 95% it is same, correct?
yeah?
The difference is in swing, they prefix the keyword, the character J. So if the controls are label in AWT, what is it? Label, text field. What do they become in swing? Yeah. So this is one of the differences in swing and AWT. There are many other differences also. So let's start with AWT, then we'll gradually migrate to swing also. So this area which I am going to do the designing is called as what? Frame. So what I'll do is, there are many ways of doing it. One of the ways is make your class. So if you're making a class calculator, for example, extend it with the class frame. Extend it with the class frame. Okay. So make your class extend the frame class. And if you want to do a coding also in this by using the click on the click of a button, so what should this class also do? Implements any of the listener which you are trying to use. So as of now I'm using the simplest of listeners. So I'll do what? Is this understood?
Yeah.
So make a class which extends which class? And implements. This is one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is just make the class simple and just make it implements action listener. Implements what? And in your class make a object of frame. Make a object of. So this way we can also do. This is also another way of doing it. Getting the point?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. So we have many ways of doing it. One of the ways is this. So let's start with this and then gradually we'll explore other options also. So what do we have to make? A class which extends which class?
Extends frame and also
And at the same time we have to do the coding also, so we have to implement which listener?
action.
Now action listener has one method. The name is action perform, correct?
Yeah.
So whose responsibility is to give body to action perform? Responsibility of the class?
Yes.
Class calculator, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so this was the second step. This was the second step. Create a class which extends
Right.
and implements any of the listener interfaces. So we have many interfaces. So one of them is, and the method name is
Action.
and then you have one more listener by the name.
Motion.
Method name is
Mouse right. Or mouse.
and so if it is mouse listener, event is mouse event. Then we have one more. Which listener?
Mouse.
And it has how many methods? So if a class is implementing mouse listener, it is responsibility of the class to give body to which methods?
Mouse event.
And if you are implementing key listener, then
Event.
and key event. Focus. Any idea what is focus listener doing?
Always watch the function.
Huh?
Or it's focused on one task that is going to be.
Yeah. So now if I have two text boxes and if I click on the text box one, who has got the focus?
Text box one.
So text box 1 has gained focus, correct?
Yes.
Now after this I click on text box 2. What has happened?
Then focus on text box.
And text box 1 has what?
Text box 1 has lost focus.
Lost focus. So if you want to do some coding at the time of text box losing focus or gaining focus, we can do that. So you see on the internet, like in a text box, it is written in a gray color font. Enter mobile number.
Oh yeah.
It's written in gray color. And when you
Yeah.
click on that, it vanishes.
Yes.
So what logic do you think they have applied over there?
It's
Focus gained. As soon as you click, it goes away, right?
yeah.
So as soon as the text box is gained focus,
Yes.
and we after entering the mobile number, let's say we enter the mobile number, and let's say in India we have 10-digit mobile number, we have 10 digits, 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5. If someone enters only 9 digits and he's leaving the text box, at this very moment I can tell him the mobile number is incorrect, correct?
You accept that one.
So but on which event will I use that?
Frame switching for
So I'll use the lost focus over there. So as soon as
yeah.
this text box is losing focus, run some code and inform the user if it is not, the length is not equal to 10.
Yeah.
So like this we can use the focus listeners also. So for that we have,
Yeah.
what?
Focus.
And then last but not the least we have window listener, and it has around 7 to 8 methods, all public void. So you can use either of these listeners in any combination, and one class can implement more than one interface. So I can implement multiple interface together. So if I want to implement action listener, along with that I want to also implement focus listener. So I can say class this extends frame and implements action listener comma focus listener. Understood?
Yes.
So step number 2 clear.
Yeah.
Now come to step number 3. Declare all the controls you need on the text box, on the canvas. So if I am doing an add two numbers simple program, so what all controls do I need on the frame to adding two numbers? What do we need?
Like
Two labels.
that.
So we'll be needing two labels, we'll be needing two text boxes, and we'll be needing one button, right? That's all we had shortlisted for this simple demo hello world program. And we had one button, correct? Krish, 1 second, hang on.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah, you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for this we'll be needing these controls, correct? So let's declare them. So this is the second step. The first step was imports, right? Second was to create a class which extends frame and implements the listeners. And third is
Yeah.
now declare what all controls you need. So I require to label, then I require to,
Text.
and I require one. If you want, you can give valid names to them. Label num1, label num2, text field num1, whatever. Okay.
Okay. We don't need it right now. It's just a small program.
Yeah, so we can stick around with this. So this was step 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Now step 4 is I want you to create a constructor for this class. Okay.
Yeah.
So this will be your step 4. So in the constructor, now this L1 is what? Is it an object or is it a reference?
That is
it's just a reference, right? So I can't invoke any I cannot invoke any methods using this L1 right now. It'll show me null pointer exception.
Yes.
So I need to first create its object. So I'll say L1 is new label and the text of the label which you wish to put over there. So you can say over there, enter number 1. Okay? Is it making sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. Then similarly we have, why don't we code this on notepad straight away so that we get the output also.
I already started,
Yeah, no, let's do it straight away over here only. So import which package?
Do we need Java and a util for this one or no?
No, we won't need util. Okay.
So AWT and then next one's gonna be AWT event.
Okay, and then next we have what? Java x dot swing. What do we have in swing is in? And no, we are not doing string, right? We do swing later
No,
on.
we're doing
So Java AWT dot event dot star. Okay, so first part is done. So step 1 is out of the way. Okay, second is make a class. So I'm making a class by the name login, or I'm making a class to add 2 numbers, right? So add number AWT. Okay, and as this class will have main, I'm making it public. Okay, now what all controls do I need? Okay, then what? Extends and implements. Okay, now what all controls do I need over here?
name L1, L2,
And
next field C1, C2, or button C1.
button, no, we'll have text field next, right? And their classes, they are what? So capital T, capital F, and
Button D1.
make sense? Step number, so this was your step number 2. This was your step number 3. Declare all the controls. Now step 4 will be make the constructor and in this constructor make objects for all. So L1 is correct, and L2 is, and then T1 is, this won't have anything, T2 is, and B1 is, and what do you want to see on that? Is understood so far? Yeah. Now we have to geographically place them on the form, correct?
Yes.
So for that we have layout managers. For that what do we have? And if I have sent you a, I guess, image file, or just see, it's titled the layout managers. Just after the this one. Can you open this? Can you see this on screen?
I can see you.
Yeah, so there are how many layout managers in Java or AWT? 5. Namely, flow layout, border layout, grid layout, grid bag layout, and card layout. Understood?
Yeah.
Now, what is flow layout? Flow layout will arrange the controls one after the other, and once it reaches the end of the frame, it will go on the next row. Understood? So the example I've given over here is, if the width of the frame is 400, you see over here? Are you able to see my screen? And if the width of the label is 150 and the width of the text field is 150, so how much is occupied? 300, right? So now do I have space for one more in the same row? Then it goes down on the next row. This is how flow layout arranges the controls. Am I understood?
Yeah.
Okay. Then next we have border layout. What do we have next?
Border.
Border layout will partition the container in 5 sections, and then you can place them accordingly. So it partitions the container in 5: north, south, east, west, center. Correct?
Yeah.
And grid layout will partition the container in a grid format, which each cell of equal size, each cell of each cell of equal size. So how many rows and how many columns over here?
5 by 3.
So this is 5 by 3, 5 comma 3. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you want the column size should be of uneven size, then you can use grid bag. So if you see, this personal information is occupying the entire row, correct?
Yes.
Then roll number row is, the entire row has only 2 cells, correct?
Yeah.
Then the third row, the gender row, has 3 cells. And if I have 3 hobbies, the hobby will have 4 cells, that row. So when you want the cell sizes to be uneven, you can go with which layout? Grid bag. And card layout is on top of the other. So there will be layouts one on top of the other. So whichever card comes on the top, we can use that frame. Okay.
Yeah.
So like this. So the simplest of the layout is which layout? Flow layout. So if I add these, so if I want to use flow layout, so I have to set that layout. So for that we have called set layout function. What do we have? Okay, now one more catch over here. Now if I want to call any function of the label, I have to use L1, correct? So if I want to, let's say, set the font of L1, I will do L1 dot set font, correct?
Okay.
So if I want to call any methods, I will use that object.
Yeah.
If I am calling any method without any object, that will be referring to the frame. Referring to the, so if any function is there which is called without any object, then you will conclude that that method is referring to the, so I'm setting the layout of what? Frame. And which layout should we use? So we will pass an object of that. Understood?
Yeah.
So that will be your, so this was your step 4, create the objects. Okay. And your step 5 will be choose the layout. Choose the what?
Yeah.
Layout. So what layout have I chosen now?
Over.
Now, okay. Now, if I have chosen floor layout, how do I add? Tell me. It adds row wise. It adds what? So this is my L1. This is my T1. This is my L2. This is my T2. And this is my B1. Now, how do I add now? Tell me.
You go in order L1, T1, L2.
Yes. So I will just say add. And add what? So this add function I am calling without any object.
So it refers to the
So it goes to the frame. So we're adding on the frame. So add L1, then add,
T1, then L2, then
correct? So choose the layout and then add the controls to the form. Okay. Let's say this was your step 6. Understood so far? So good.
yes.
Okay. So here the designing part completes. The designing part completes once you use the add. Okay. Now coding will be done on which control? Coding.
So then the main function of
Hmm?
and the function of
Coding will be done on the click of what?
on the entering of
When the user clicks on the button,
yes.
the code of adding two numbers. Okay, we have not added the third row, which will show the output.
Right.
So we have not added. Where will we show the output? So we haven't added anything called as result and then show the result over here. We haven't done anything of this nature.
I
So
mean,
we.
that's not going to be text string. That's just going to be so that's not going to be text. That'll just be a relay.
Mm-hmm.
The result.
So we should add one more label which will say result and the addition of these two. So if he enters over here 10 and he enters over here 20 and clicks on add, then we should show 30 over here.
So that shouldn't be in text here. That should be in label.
Yeah, this is the label result and this is the text field. You also show this also as a label?
Well, yeah, that should also be label.
Yeah, your wish. Your wish. So if you feel that this also should be a label, then we can put a label over
Like
here
the
also.
text field, like the user can click on the text
So
field.
yeah, so we can set it enable to false. We can set it enable to false so that no one enters anything in it.
Okay.
Okay, so now you are trying to say that we have to add two more labels, right?
Yeah.
So L3 and L4, correct? So
Yeah.
let's alter this now. So first add them over here also, correct? And then
Yes.
make them over here also. So L3 will have over
Result.
here what result, and L4 will be blank at the moment, correct? Make sense?
Yeah.
And then how will we add them after T2, right?
Yes.
Add L3 and add, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is done. Now the coding will be done on which part? The calculation will be done on which event?
On depending on the
When the user clicks on B1, right?
yeah.
And what is written on B1? What is written on B1? Add.
Or password.
We written add. What have we written?
Add.
So what is written on B1?
Add.
Add. So the control on which you want to do the coding, you have to register that control with the appropriate listener. The control which you want to do coding, you have to register that control with the appropriate listener, right? So on which control do we have to do the coding?
Let me add.
That's B1.
Yeah.
So register that with the appropriate listener. Which is the listener which we are using?
Add.
So now you will say b1 dot add and the listener name. What is the listener name? Okay. Now action listener has a method by what name? Action performed. Which class will give body to action performed? Which class will give body to action performed? This very class add to num, right or wrong? Because we are saying class add numbers implement action listener. So is the responsibility of which class to give body to that method? So here the constructor is ending. What is ending over here? So after constructor ends, we have given which method? So that we will fulfill our promise, correct? So we are fulfilling our promise that we are implementing the action listener, correct? And we are registering B1 with which listener? So when the add action listener method, it is mentioned in which class? It's mentioned in this very class. The implementation method of this listener, is it in some other class or this very class? So we have to add the keyword this over here, just to stress that the implementation method of this listener is in this very class. There's one more way of doing it. We can make another class. Okay, what is it? What have I given? So what is, whose responsibility is it to give body to action performed? So we can have this over here, and whatever code whatever logic we have to apply of addition will apply over here, correct? So if I don't implement the listener over here, if I don't implement the listener over here, I can remove it from here, correct? So now which class is having the body of action listener? Class my code. So I can pass the object of my code over here. So whichever class which is having the method implementation, we have to pass object of that class. So in this case, our very class is having the method implementation, so I'm writing this over here. Am I understood? Krish, are you getting what's happening? See, whichever class is having the implementation of this method. So if I make a new class, so I'll have to pass the object of that class. And if I have it in my very own class, I can just say, getting the point? Okay. Now we have some stereotype functions for the frame. Like we can set it visible to true or false. So I am now directly calling set visible. So this is referring to which component? Set. I haven't used any object to invoke this. So it is being referred to the frame. I can set the title, like whatever number whatever you want to put over there. And then you can set the size also. You can also set the size. So let's say if I set the width to be, let's say 200, and the height to be, let's say, 200. Okay, and now the constructor closes. This is the designing part completes over here. Am I understood till here?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, now when the user clicks on the button, it goes into which method? And one listener can listen to multiple buttons. One listener can listen to, so if I have the entire repertoire of the calculator, wherein I have the subtract button, and I have the multiply button, and I have divide button, I can have one listener listening to all of them. One listener listening to all of these buttons. So how does a listener identify which button has been clicked? Is it add which has been clicked? Is it subtract? Is it multiply? Or is it divide? How does the listener make out? So the listener can read the caption. What is written on this is called as the caption. What is it called? So what is this? What is this called as? Caption. So the listener can read the caption, and then as per the caption it can do the task. So how to read the caption? We have a method called as get action command. What method we have? So we'll use this object. We'll use this object, and we'll get which method? And that will return you a string of the caption, right?
Yeah.
So now I can say, now how do I know whether add is clicked or not? So I will say if cap dot, then execute this part of the function. Am I understood?
And you use the close button.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now first thing first, I need to read the data from the text box T1, right?
Yes.
So by default, whatever you enter in a text box is string. Is what?
String.
String. So I do T1 dot get text. Do what? But as I know it will be a string, so what I do?
To convert it to
And then store it in which variable?
data one.
Similarly for N2,
Yeah.
and then we can add them and display the answer where?
On
That is set text. And whenever you display, you convert it to string and display. You convert into, so because you are setting a text, what are you setting?
text.
So we convert this N3 into a string and display it. Am I understood?
Yes.
So this is done. The program is done. Let's try. Okay, now we need to write the main. Write the what? Which method? Public static void main, and this main will invoke the constructor. Will invoke the what?
Constructor.
And how is the constructor invoked?
Add number.
When we create the object.
Yeah.
So constructor invoke class, and I save this as by what name?
Yeah.
So let's save it. Are you getting the point?
It's coming together like all of the mechanism.
Okay, now let's try to compile this. What is it showing over there? Okay, see, we removed that, right? So what should we say? Implements. Okay. Done. You see this?
Yeah.
So see, now do you see the flow layout?
Yes.
Do you see the flow layout, how it's happening? So as I reduce
Yeah.
it, clear?
Yes.
So if I add 1 and 2, you see over here? You see add and they are on the same line
Yeah.
because it is using flow layout concept, correct?
Yes.
So if I do 20 and 30, 10 and 20 then, so
We can increase the width of the
yeah, we can increase the width. So better than that is we can use one more concept that is called as panel. Called as what? Called as panel. Now what we can see, the frame and panel are what do you call? They are containers. What are they? They just contain other controls. What are they? So the frame is containing L1, T1, L2, T2, L3, L4 and B1, yes or no? And similarly even panel, it is used as a container. So see how I can do this better is like this. So I'll try to improve the UI. See what we can do is take the frame, okay, this black part is the frame, okay, split this frame by, you can call it as border layout. Which layout? So we'll split the frame into 5 parts. Is this making sense to you?
Yeah.
So for the frame, which layout will we use? Which layout will we use? Okay, now this central part is where I want to place my L1, T1, L2, T2, L3, L4, correct?
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll make a panel. This is my panel. What is this? Red part is what? Panel. And I'll set this panel's layout as grid layout. As what layout? Grid layout. Of what? What size? 3 by 2. Right?
And in each one you just have the sector text.
Yeah, and I'll add the labels. I'll add the label and text fields to where?
In those subsets.
In the panel. In the
Panel.
panel. Okay. So like this, I'll add them in the panel. And what will I do to the panel? Add it at the center of the frame. Are you getting the point? Are you getting the point what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So where will you add the L1, L2, L3, L4, T1, T2? Where will you add them? To the panel, right?
But there's no button.
Yeah, I'll do the button also. And where will you add the panel?
Inside the center.
Which part of the frame?
Border extension.
So, and this will go to the center. Is this clear?
Yeah.
And I'll add the button at the south. I'll add the button at the, where will the button go to?
Yeah.
Is this understood? Clear?
Yeah.
So now we have to take extra control by what name? Panel, right? So I'll take a panel P1. Yes, no, maybe. Make an object of that also. Are you getting the point, Krish?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now this is layout for what?
For
Is it being called using any object?
for
So for this will be what layout?
for
And if I want to set for the panel, I will explicitly call P1.set layout. And what? New of size. Is this understood, Krish?
yes. Yeah.
So if I am not calling with any object, this for the frame, and if I want to call with any object, I will use that object over here. Okay.
Yes.
Now tell me, where is this L1 being added to right now?
It's being added to the first section, so like 1, 1.
So now where do I want to add it to?
Added in P1.
To the P1, right?
Yes.
And we added row wise. How do we add it?
Well,
And I'm not adding this to the pan, not adding this, correct?
yeah, that's the same thing.
Is this understood so far?
Yeah.
Now where is the panel P1 being added now? To what part of the frame?
The bottom.
Panel,
Oh. Second.
center. So now if I call add, I'm using which? This is adding where?
Yes, to the right.
Frame. And adding what?
P1.
And adding where?
Second.
And add
P1 to 1. Without.
rest remains the same. Rest, the coding part remains the same. Clear?
Yeah.
So we've discussed border layout, grid layout, flow layout all in one program. So I save this, I compile it, I run it. You see,
Yeah.
making sense? Is that making sense to you? Hmm?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hang on one second. Getting the point, Krish?
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. So now if I add 1, 2, 3 with 1, 2, 3, correct?
Okay.
So like this, you can play on with your controls. And by simply adding J, this turns into a, so now you take a screenshot of this for your reference, and when we run it in swing, you see the difference between the UI. Okay, you'll feel the difference. Taken a screenshot?
Yeah. I got it.
Okay, so now how do I convert this to swing?
And then.
Just keep on adding J to all the classes. Just keep on adding J to all the classes. First, I need to import it. So what? Import
Java.
Java x.swing. Okay.
Uh,
And now just keep adding what to the classes. Okay, only to the classes, not to the interfaces. So frame becomes,
okay.
label becomes.
Can you also add the actual name?
No, that won't change. That will still be from the AWT event class.
Okay, got it.
That will still be on the AWT event package. Okay. Text field, button, panel, Label, now just add the J's. That's all we have to do to convert it to swing, and it has some additional features also. So just J, 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 J. Yeah, more or less we are done, right? I save this. I recompile the code. Control C is to come out. Control C. Recompile. Run. See the difference? Now take a screenshot and tally the difference. You see that the UI has changed.
little bit, yeah. Yeah, but look a bit more like modern.
Yeah, so you can have other features also in Swing which will help us to decorate this or enhance the features of this.
Or yeah. Okay.
So instead of now using the console to accept your programming values, you can accept your values from this UI. Okay,
Yeah.
and then we can play around with this. So if you want to disable any text field, like you don't, like you entered the value and you don't want people to change that value, then we can disable that. So it is, I guess, set editable false. What is it?
Second, oh,
So if I create this T1, once I have created it over here, I can set what over here. So if I can set its text, set text, let's say 100. Set text what?
100.
And now if I don't want anyone to edit this, what will I do?
Second.
What? Let's check this.
Oh,
Let's check this whether I'm doing it right or wrong. Okay.
yeah.
And now if you see, you are not having access to the text box, are you?
No.
So this was what I was doing it last time when I was showing over here in a text box, and you told no sir, make it a label. So I was going to set that editable to false so that it would just be used for display purpose.
Makes sense.
So like this you can play around with it. And if let's say I am accepting a password over here, so I don't want people to see that, right?
Yeah.
So I guess for that we have set echo char. What do we have? Set echo char. So if t2, if I do t2 dot what set, and if I put the char as dollar or any character you can put, what have I put over there? So
Yeah.
whatever I enter in the t2 will reflect as dollars, will reflect as cannot find symbol. You have to research this, what it
Maybe
is.
no, or other,
Is it password char?
maybe.
I'm not sure about this also. Maybe we'll have to research on this. No, we'll have to research on this. Let me check. So if we go with the set bounds method, we can use this, correct?
Yeah.
So what's it?
Should be 500, 500, 400,
500,
400,
400, and
200, 200, and then 100.
200. Correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So if you are using the set bounds method, you tell AWT that I am not using your layout. I am not using any of your layout managers. So you tell them that I'm using what? My own
That's
layout.
not,
Layout null. Okay.
yeah.
So I copy
Okay,
this
done.
code. I'm sending this code to you meanwhile, so that at least you won't make any changes in this code, and
Yeah.
then we will edit this code with the set bounds, and then you can test that. Okay. So J label J text field T1 and all that stuff. Okay. So what do I tell them? That I'm not using any of your layouts, correct? So I'll tell them set layout what? What layout?
No, no.
No. And now tell me, you give the coordinates. Take a screenshot of this and just dictate the coordinates. Taken.
Yeah,
And then what should be the set size of the frame? 800, 700, right?
yeah.
For the frame, it will be what? Set size.
870.
Okay, now come on, give me this. Dictate this to me.
Yeah,
L1 dot set bounds what?
that's it. 200, 200, 200,
200, 200,
200 and 100, then 200,
200, 100, 200, 100, right?
200. Yeah,
Yeah. And now just add that L1. Just add that L1. Next
that's
L2.
the one.
Okay, T1 is what?
Then down 500, 100, 200, 100.
And add T1. Then now what is for L2 and T2 now?
Now, out.
L2 is
Now 2 is 200, 300, 400.
200, 300 and add L2 and T2 is
Yeah, 2 is 500, 300.
and then L3 and L4 is
Now B is 200, 400, 200, 100.
400 and
And
L4 is
4, 500, 400.
L4 L3 is 200, 400 and
Yeah,
L4 is
500, 400.
500, 400.
Yeah. And
That's
then
and
1.
and the B1 is have you done B1?
Yeah,
B1 is
400, 500.
B1 is
400, 500.
okay.
Yeah.
That's all. Coding is done on correct.
Yes.
So like this you can use set bounds also. Set layout spelling. Okay, making sense.
Yeah.
And okay, we haven't set the size of the frame. What is it? Frame size?
800, 700.
Hmm.
800, 800, 700.
Okay,
Yeah.
100, 400, 400. Making sense. So you can improve the UI better.
Yeah, makes sense.
So this is how you work on that. So now try doing the program which we have done in Java on the UI part. Like if you want to accept a number and check whether it is prime or not. So accept the number over here and then on the label display, number is prime, number is not prime. Okay.
Alright. Sounds good.
Yeah. So try doing that. Take